Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, January 8th, 2026. Welcome to Morning Adrenaline. I hope you warriors are awake because today is day 4 of our High Value Human series. And this week has been very intentional. Day 1, we talked about the traits and the identity or the identity transformation, really, that it takes to become a high value human. In day 2, we talked about the benefits. What's the payoff that follows that identity realignment? Day 3, yes, there's going to be some costs. So we talked about the costs of transformation, but today is completely different. Today is not about adding more to what we've done. It's about hitting reset back to your original God-given identity. Today is about responsibility, because becoming high value isn't just about confidence, productivity, or success. It's about stewardship. And it's about faith. And stewardship starts with faith. So earlier in the week, I told you that I believe that faith is a very important part of the high value human journey and identity. Today, I'm going to prove that to you. So let's start here. What is faith? Faith is not blind optimism, and it's certainly not denial. It's not sitting back and hoping things work out. Faith is trust placed in direction before it becomes visible. It's the confidence that there's a future built for you, predetermined by God, even though you can't yet see the full picture. Faith means you don't just trust God, you trust the future. He's already planned it, even when the next step for the entire vision, for that matter, isn't obvious. That's the difference between faith and fear. Fear waits for certainty. It needs guarantees. It refuses to move without proof. Faith moves before the proof shows up. So this is why back on day 1, we said high value humans don't act from fear. They act from faith. There are no emotional reactions. High value humans don't let uncertainty freeze them. They trust direction over comfort. Remember from yesterday, the comfort addiction that we talked about? Too many people are addicted to comfort. The challenge for most people is that faith doesn't eliminate risk. Think about that. There's always risk. Faith doesn't just eliminate and get rid of risk. It gives you the courage to jump into it. Every meaningful outcome in your life started unseen. So think about your achievements, your valuable relationships, your spouse, your significant other, your kids, your coworkers, your employees, your employers, your friends. How about your jobs that you've had, the businesses that you've started, your family? God knew who your kids were before you knew you were going to have kids, or your spiritual journey. You didn't see any of that first. You may not have even trusted it, but it happened anyway. Fear asks, what if this fails? And faith asks, who do I become if I step forward? Faith is a valuable and important part of the journey to becoming a high value human. So before I go any further, let me be clear about something. I'm not a preacher. I haven't been to seminary. I'm not here to deliver a sermon. I'm simply someone that pays attention to my own life. See, I'm a man with real life experiences. I'm 53 years old. When I was 52, I'd been a Christian, or I identified, I guess, as a Christian my entire life. I grew up in a Christian family, went to a Christian church, and was in and out of church over the years. Had my moments where I was in, had my moments where I was out. And when about halfway through the age of 52, I finally found faith. I bought in. But I had an experience that led me to that. And I'm not going to get into that entire experience right now, but I will say this. All I did was I started asking the right question. What I realized is I was asking the wrong question for 51 and a half years. And that was, what if there is no God? And all I had to do was ask the right question, what if there is? Now, I've also paid very close attention to other people who live with clarity, discipline, peace, and purpose. Many of them understand theology far better than I ever will. But what they all have in common is this: they live differently. They treat life and people differently. They treat responsibility differently. They treat time, talent, and treasure differently. Look, according to a Gallup analysis of American well-being data, Americans who attend church services weekly are significantly more likely to report high life satisfaction than those who attend less often. So, of course, it's impossible to be high value if you're unsatisfied with your life, right? But why is that? Personally, I believe it's almost entirely due to faith and the absence or at least partial silencing of fear. Let me say that again, the absence or partial silencing of fear. Why do I say partial silencing? Just because you have faith, does that mean that you'll never have moments of fear? Of course not. But faith gives you the opportunity, it gives you the mentality to strike fear from your mind when it's necessary and reinsert faith. Look, I told you I have a story. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but I will tell you this. I launched Sisu Vita and T Scott Elite. I started building them about 2 years ago, year and a half ago. I started building these companies. And I've had my moments. I left a 26-year real estate career to build something brand new. I built it from the ground up all by myself. I self-funded it. I've had moments where I should have been in panic mode. Fortunately, I had already found my faith during those moments, because I had moments where I should have been in fear, but I was living in faith. I had moments where I should have quit and went back to real estate, but I kept pushing through because I had faith. I could see the outcome in my mind, and I knew it was God's purpose for me. Do you have faith in what you're doing right now? And if not, that's why tomorrow is going to be valuable when we talk about the roadmap for becoming a high-value human. So today's not about theology. It's about observation, experience, and alignment. This is about what consistently produces a grounded, high-value life and what doesn't. So look, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, but do pay attention, because I think you'll realize after today, faith is a very important part of your high-value journey. So let me now ask you something that matters. Do you believe your life has assignment and purpose, or do you think it's just random? Because how you answer that question determines how seriously you treat your time, your talent, your treasures, aka resources, which, by the way, are our 3 main points for today. Completely different from the 8 traits we talked about on day 1. These are more like principles. So let's start here. Let's start with time. And I am going to give you a little bit of scripture today. Not much, but a little bit, just to put this into perspective so you understand that this is biblical. Time, talent, and treasure. In the book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 48, to whom much is given, much is required. Your stewardship of time is about responsibility. And high-value humans understand this. Time is the first and most finite resource we're given. Everyone receives it equally, but stewardship separates outcomes. Therefore, time is the first test of stewardship. Before productivity, calendars, or execution, you have to ask yourself the deeper question. Are you giving time to the one who gave you life? Maybe a better question is, are you giving enough time to the one who gave you life? The first minutes of your morning when you wake, do you show gratitude for your breath, the breath in your lungs, the air you breathe, the bed you sleep in, the house you live in, the roof over your head, the food on your table, on your children's table, on your grandchildren's table? Are you giving time to the one who gave you life throughout other moments of the day? So basically what I'm asking you is, are you leaning into God or self in moments of chaos and confusion? High value humans pray before they panic. You see, God didn't give time to waste. Time was given for assignment. So ask the hard question, do you value time or are you wasting it away? So if you want the signs that you're abusing time, here's a few. You're unhappy. Now, why would that be? Why would unhappiness mean you're wasting time? Because you're not living a high value life. If you're unhappy, you can't be high value. There's something you're doing wrong. Doesn't mean you're not using time. You might just be using it incorrectly to live an unhappy life. You're unfulfilled. You're confused. You're bored. You're angry. See, not every wasted moment is rebellion, but habitual waste becomes disrespect to purpose. And purpose completely changes how you treat time. If you're not being challenged, you haven't found a big enough purpose yet for your life. So let's talk about this from a practical standpoint. High value, faith grounded humans put God first. They give him the first minutes of the day. They show gratitude like we just talked about. High value humans protect their mornings. Do you have a morning routine? Do you protect your morning? Or are you just jumping on the phone, just scrolling social media, checking email, being distracted? An addiction, by the way, distraction. Do you guard your focus aggressively? That's what high value humans do. Eliminate drift is intentional. Understand this, guys. Nothing good comes from boredom. High value humans don't allow distractions to decide their day, emotions to hijack their schedules, or busyness for the sake of being busy to replace their purpose. You see, God gave time to multiply impact. High value humans use time to increase opportunity, build discipline, compound growth. They spend time, they consider it, they don't, how do I want to say this? They don't spend time, they consider it time invested. Principle number 2, talent. And when we talk about talent, we're talking really about stewardship of what you've been given. But before we talk about money, we need to talk about capacity. Talent is ability entrusted. So how are you cultivating your physical body, your mental capacity, your energy, your intelligence, your creativity, your work ethic? You see, proper stewardship of these is assignment. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace. This verse speaks direct to your usefulness. You're not judged by what someone else has. You're judged by whether you're using what you were given. So stewardship isn't about how much you have. It's about whether you're using it. Your body is a talent. Your mind is a talent. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 and 20. Do you know what your body, do you, I have to read this. Do you know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit? Therefore, honor God with your body. A high value human does not abuse what was entrusted to them. They don't poison their body casually. They don't neglect their health habitually. They feed their mind garbage intentionally. Excuse me, they don't feed, what did I say? Did I say they feed their mind garbage intentionally? They don't feed their mind garbage intentionally. Because without a strong body and a focused mind, talent can't be multiplied. So are you using or wasting your talent? Talent wasted looks like coasting through the day, underperforming at work, avoiding responsibilities, numbing your potential, hiding behind excuses, or procrastination, which is the obvious one. High value humans don't ask, what can I get away with? They ask, what am I capable of becoming? So how are you using your talent to provide? Talent is meant to produce. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, anyone who does not provide for their relatives has denied the faith. So men are commanded to work, provide, build, and contribute, not to dominate, but to serve through strength. And by nature, you're building a high value identity. High value men build so others can stand. Your talents exist to add value to everything around you. Solve problems, serve others, build something meaningful. Talent unused doesn't just hurt you. It limits the value you are meant to bring to the world and those that rely on you. Who's relying on you to become high value? Your talent isn't for self-glory. It's for value creation. Principle number 3, treasure. Let's start with this. Let's start with the parable of the talents, Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. And in this parable, Jesus describes a master who entrusts money to his servants. One servant receives 5 talents, the second receives 2 talents, and the third receives 1 talent. Now, each is given according to their capacity. 2 servants invest and multiply what they were given. 1 servant buries the money out of fear. The issue for the 1 servant wasn't loss. The issue was inaction. Fear, not failure, was the problem. The sin wasn't losing the money, it was burying it. Now, for context, a talent was not a skill, because I know we just talked about talent. So the talent of the parables, a talent, understand, was a unit of currency in the Bible. Money, wealth, responsibility, which tells us something important, by the way. Jesus spoke about money not as evil, but as something that reveals stewardship, trust, and responsibility. So money in the Bible is a test, not a taboo. So that brings us to an important point. High-value humans do not fear money. They also don't worship it. They understand money is amplified influence. Money doesn't change character, it reveals it. So put the money in the hands of a low-value human, and it often produces things like ego, excess, addiction, comparison, impulse. Put money in the hands of a high-value human, and it produces things like provision, generosity, stability, impact, and legacy. High-value humans see abundance as a responsibility, not a reward. They think in terms of family security, church support, community building, value creation, and long-term impact. They don't ask, how much can I keep? They ask, how much good can I do? And what is my God-given purpose, or said otherwise, responsibility? Money doesn't corrupt, it reveals. Abundance in the right hands becomes impact. High value humans see money as a force for good. It's not their identity. Put money in disciplined hands and it builds. Everything around them builds. So let me ask you this. If someone audited your bank account, what story would it tell? Not your intentions, not your beliefs, but your priorities. Where your money goes reveals what you value, what you trust, what you put first. Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. For where your treasure, let me start over. Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So this raises a real question. Are you serving your creator with what he's entrusted to you? Do you tithe? Do you give back to your community? Do you invest with purpose? Do you build with intention? Do you make impact? Or does fear dictate how you handle money? The servant who buried the talent didn't do so out of rebellion. He did so out of fear. Fear-based money decisions bury potential. So here's how faith ties into the principle of treasure. Faith doesn't make you reckless, it makes you intentional. It produces less impulse, less panic, more patience, and more discipline. So high-value humans don't ask, how do I protect what I have? They ask, how do I steward what I've been entrusted with? Money handled with fear gets buried. Money handled with faith gets multiplied. This isn't about wealth for ego. It's about alignment with responsibility. So listen, here's the question I want to leave you with. Are you robbing God? Not emotionally, not intentionally, but practically. With your time, are you giving him your first attention or your leftovers? With your talent, are you developing the mind and body you were entrusted with, or letting potential rust through neglect and comfort? And with your treasure, does your money reflect faith and stewardship, or fear and self-preservation? Because robbing God doesn't look like rebellion, it looks like wasted opportunity. Look, guys, I don't know about you, but the last person I want to rob is God. High-value humans understand this. What you've been given isn't just for you, it's for impact, multiplication, and purpose. And it's biblical. Listen, tomorrow we turn the first 4 days into action to put you on the road to becoming the person you were meant to become, to restore your God-given identity. Look, it might seem like a lot. You know, I have over 50 roadmaps in Sisu Vita, and all of them are very specific. Purpose, faith, driven, productivity, confidence, charisma. I have over 50 roadmaps. You know what high value is? It kind of encompasses everything. You could take all my 50 roadmaps, put them together, and that kind of is what makes a high value human. So it might feel like a lot, but tomorrow I'm going to give you a very specific roadmap to get you there in a very short amount of time. I'm going to give you a PDF to identify whatever weaknesses you have right now. So it's going to make it very simple. Hey, I have an issue. I have the addiction of comfort, the addiction of pleasure, the addiction of distraction. We're going to identify those weaknesses and we're going to help you get rid of them very, very quickly using the roadmap and using a platform that I'm going to recommend to you. It is the Sisu Vita platform that you can access for less than the cost of a gym membership, by the way, to completely turn everything around. So look, I want to make sure that everything that we discussed this week wasn't just inspirational, but it becomes operational. And that is what tomorrow is all about. Same time, same place. See you here tomorrow. Let's go dominate the day.